200 miles per hour. That's how fast Ken Miles was traveling when the Ford J-car flipped on August 17, 1966. 2 months earlier, Miles had led Ford to their first ever Le Mans victory over Ferrari. He was 47 years old, a World War II veteran, one of the best development drivers in racing. He'd helped create the Ford GT40, the Shelby Cobra, and was about to perfect Ford's next Le Mans weapon. His 15-year-old son Peter watched from the Riverside International Raceway grandstands as his father's car went airborne, flipped multiple times, burst into flames, and killed him instantly. The cause was never officially determined. Ford blamed mechanical failure. Some engineers pointed to aerodynamic instability, others suggested brake failure. One conspiracy theory claimed Miles survived, and Ford paid him millions to disappear. The real story is darker. Ford knew the J-car had problems. They'd already lost one test driver, Walt Hansken, 5 months earlier testing a similar car. They put Miles in it anyway. So what was the Ford J-car? Why was it so dangerous? And what really happened that day at Riverside? The J-car project. After Ford's dominating 1-2-3 finish at Le Mans 1966, they should have been celebrating. Instead, they were planning the next car. The Ford GT40 Mark II that won Le Mans was heavy. It weighed over 800 pounds. The 427 cubic inch V8 made 485 horsepower, but all that weight hurt handling in 8 tires. Ford wanted something lighter, faster, more aerodynamic. They called it the J-car, named after the new FIA Appendix J regulations for 1966. Carcraft Engineering, a Ford-owned company, built the J-car using aerospace technology. The chassis was a honeycomb aluminium monocoque tub. This was the same construction method used in aircraft. It weighed just 600 pounds, 200 pounds lighter than the Mark II. The engine was the same 427 cubic inch Ford V8 from the Mark II, making around 500 horsepower. But here's where things got controversial: the body. The J-car used something called a camback design. Instead of a smooth sloping rear end like the GT40, the J-car's roof chopped off abruptly. It looked like a bread van. Engineers called it aerodynamically efficient. It reduced drag at high speeds. During testing at Le Mans in June 1966, the J-car set the fastest lap times in practice. Bruce McLaren and Chris Amon drove it. They loved the speed. But Ford didn't race it. They stuck with the proven GT40 Mark II cars. That decision saved lives. Walt Hansken crashed on April 7, 1966, testing an early J-car prototype at Le Mans. He died from his injuries a week later on April 14. Ford didn't stop the J-car program. They blamed driver error. They continued development. By August 1966, Ford had built a second J-car, designated J2. This one was modified for the Can-Am Racing Series. More power, different aerodynamics, less testing. Ken Miles was Ford's best development driver. He'd driven everything from Cobras to GT40s. He knew how to test race cars at the limit. He'd survived crashes before. Ford trusted him completely. On August 17, 1966, Miles went to Riverside International Raceway in Southern California for testing. The temperature was over 100 degrees. Desert heat. The J-car had been running all day without problems. Carroll Shelby was there. Peter Miles, Ken's 15-year-old son, was there. Multiple Ford executives were watching. This was supposed to be a routine test session. Miles completed multiple laps at high speed. No issues. The car felt fast, responsive. Then he started one final lap down Riverside's 1-mile downhill back straight. Eyewitness accounts differ on what happened next. Some say the car was traveling over 200 miles per hour when it flipped. Others claim it had slowed to 175 miles per hour. One report suggested Miles had slowed to approximately 100 miles per hour when he lost control. Here's what we know. Approaching the end of the back straight, the J-car suddenly became unstable. It spun to the inside of the course. It went over a tall embankment. The car bounded end over end. Ken Miles was thrown from the car on the third roll. He died instantly from head injuries before emergency crews reached the scene. His body landed separate from the wreckage. The main chassis section caught fire after coming to rest. The fuel tank ruptured. Flames consumed what was left of the J-car. The fire damage, combined with the violent impacts, meant investigators couldn't determine the exact cause. A spokesperson told the Desert Sun newspaper. The car went off the track at the easiest curve to negotiate, which drew speculation that the accident may have been caused by a mechanical failure. Peter Miles watched his father die. He was 15 years old. Carroll Shelby was devastated. When asked about Miles at the Monterey Historics years later, Shelby reportedly dropped his plate of food in shock and refused to discuss it. Ford's official investigation blamed mechanical failure. They never specified what failed. The J-car had fundamental aerodynamic problems. The camback design that looked so efficient in wind tunnels behaved differently at racing speeds on real tracks. At high speeds, the abrupt rear end created lift. The back of the car wanted to fly. The honeycomb aluminum chassis, while lightweight, flexed under stress. This combination made the J-car unstable. Multiple sources suggest the rear end lifted during high-speed braking or cornering. Once the rear wheels lost contact with the ground, the driver had zero control. The car would spin, flip, or both. Ford knew this. Walt Hansgen's death 5 months earlier should have been the warning. The J-car needed more development, more testing, stronger chassis, better aerodynamics. They put Miles in it anyway. He was their best driver. If anyone could develop the car safely, it was him. That logic killed him. After Miles' death, Ford executives ordered immediate changes. They installed NASCAR-style roll cages. They redesigned the body completely. They strengthened the chassis with rivets instead of just adhesive bonding. The revised car was renamed the Ford GT40 Mark IV. It won both races it entered, the 1967 12 Hours of Sebring and the 1967 24 Hours of Le Mans. At Le Mans 1967, Mario Andretti crashed the Mark IV. The roll cage Ford installed after Miles' death is believed to have saved Andretti's life. The Mark IV proved the concept worked, but only after Ford fixed what killed Ken Miles. In 2003, Car and Driver published an article by retired cop Fred Jones. He claimed Ken Miles survived the crash and lived in Wisconsin. According to Jones, he'd found 2 death certificates for Miles in Riverside County archives. He tracked down a man living in a school bus in rural Wisconsin who claimed to be the legendary race driver. The man knew details about Cobras and Shelby American. He drove with exceptional skill. He claimed Ford had paid him millions to disappear after the crash. Jones confronted Carroll Shelby about this. Shelby reportedly dropped his plate of food and refused to talk. Phil Remington, Shelby's chief mechanic, vehemently insisted Miles had been killed. The conspiracy falls apart under scrutiny. Over 400 people attended Miles' funeral. His body was identified. He's buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. His son Peter confirmed his death. But the conspiracy persists because the crash circumstances were suspicious. Ford investigating itself. Mechanical failure never specified. A second death certificate mysteriously appearing. The truth is simpler. Ford pushed an unsafe car too hard too fast. Ken Miles paid the price. Ken Miles won 38 of 44 races he entered between 1958 and 1963. He helped develop the Shelby Cobra into a Ferrari killer. He engineered the Ford GT40 that dominated Le Mans. He won the 1966 Daytona 24 Hours and the 1966 12 Hours of Sebring. At Le Mans 1966, Miles was leading by a lap with 1 hour remaining. Ford executives wanted a publicity photo of 3 cars crossing the finish line together. They ordered Miles to slow down. He obeyed. The French race officials initially agreed to a 3-way tie, then they changed their minds during the final hour. Bruce McLaren's car, which started further back on the grid, was credited with traveling slightly more distance. McLaren won. Miles finished second. 2 months later, Miles was dead. Ford inducted Miles into the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America in 2001. He was inducted into the West Coast Stock Car Hall of Fame in 2020. The 2019 film Ford vs. Ferrari, starring Christian Bale as Miles, introduced him to a new generation. The Ford J-car that killed Ken Miles led directly to the Mark IV that won Le Mans 1967. Ford achieved their goal. They beat Ferrari again. The cost was 2 test drivers' lives. Miles helped create the cars that beat Ferrari. He engineered Ford's Le Mans victories. He died testing the next generation of Ford race cars. His legacy is performance, innovation, and the human cost of racing at the absolute limit.